And kia ora. My name's Seamus Fitzgerald. It's a very Polynesian name. But you can tell from your accent that I'm probably from New Zealand, and which I am Māori, but I'm also half Irish. Which probably means that half of me wants to take all of the students in here for a big feed, but the other half doesn't want to pay for it. You work out which half that is. But anyway, I'm grateful for this opportunity to share a little bit of my culture with you today. I come from the centre of the universe, and sorry I didn't have a teleprompter, so I'm just going to read off my papers here. I come from the centre of the universe, Turangi, but Hollywood calls that place Middle Earth, but for me it's just home. I've worked here at the Polynesian Cultural Center for over 15 years. At the Polynesian Cultural Center, we define culture as the lens through which we see the world. Culture is the lens through which we see and understand each other. I'm hoping that what I share today will help us understand each other a little better. Now, this photo is looking across Lake Taupo towards my homeland, my hometown of Turangi. It's a beautiful place to live, and if you have ever been there, you'll notice the landscape is beautiful, the people are friendly, and people talk a little bit slower the further you get away from the city centres like Auckland. Turangi, where I'm from, arguably could say we have our own language. For example, if your name was David, where you're from, in the morning someone may say to you, "Good morning, David, and how are you doing today?" Where I come from, you'd probably hear up to, and I'm guessing half of you don't even know what I said because no one laughed. But we have a language where you don't even use words. I remember going to vote for our county council, and one of my friends looked at me and went like this. That means, "Do you have time to cast your vote today, Seamus?" And I looked back at him and went, and that means, "Yes, I do, and thank you for asking." I was a typical Māori boy. I grew up, my mother had 6 children before she met my father. She had 4 children with my father, and I am number 10 out of 11. And I'm guessing in those young years, as a child, times were a bit hard for my mum. She, one night, called a taxi to take her to her friends, and there were no babysitters, and so she took me along. At that time, I'm a year old. And she asked the taxi driver, "Could you look after my baby for the night, and then after my night is over, I'll call you to pick me up and I'll take him home." That's another talk in itself. A long story short, the taxi driver raised me my whole life. I was never adopted, I was whāngai. I remember when I was about 8 years old, and I saw my mother in the town centre of Turangi, and she called me. I went over to her, and I remember her hugging me tight. And she said to me, "Son, do you want to come home?" And I remember saying to her as an 8-year-old, "No, I don't." And she honoured my choice, and I'm forever thankful for her. And I've often thought about how hard it must have been for her to leave me as she moved from Turangi to Rotorua. But she had peace of mind to leave me with a family that was very loving and gave me opportunities. And although through my teenage years I had identity problems that caused me to do what most Māori boys do in their teenage years, and I got in a lot of trouble. But she was right about leaving me with that taxi driver, raised me with opportunities and encouraged me to know who I was, to know where I was from, encouraged me to stay in contact with my biological family. If you meet a Māori anywhere in the world and ask them their mountain, they will tell you the name. And automatically, as they tell you the name, they pull in about 800 years of genealogy as they link themselves to the people who have lived under the shadow of their particular mountain. But our connection to the mountain is not just in time or in proximity, but literally for us, it is through our genealogy. You see, in the beginning of time, Tāne Nui Arangi, the greatest son of the heavens, went to a place called Kuruwaka and took the sacred clay and formed a human being in the Ahuruni. So we literally believe that we are from the land. He called on his brothers to help with this creation of mankind. One of his brothers, Tangaroa, God of the ocean, God of water, gave this creation, hene aho one, water. 80% of us is water. And so water in our language is wai. So when we meet people, we say things like ko wai to ingoa, which literally means water. What is your name? So that would hopefully help you understand when you hear our people say things like ko au te whenua, ko te whenua ko au. I am the land, and the land is me. Ko au te wai ko au. I am the water, and the water is me. Now, I'm going to tell you a little bit about who I am through mountains. Through my mother, this is my mountain, Maunga Pohatu, and this is my water, o Hene Mataro. This is my marae, my kirikiri. Through my mum who raised me, this is my mountain, Aorangi, and this is my water, Wairarapa. My marae is Kohonui. As I mentioned earlier, I was raised under the shadow of 4 majestic mountains in Turangi. Pihanga, Ruapehu, who Hollywood call Mount Doom, Ngāi, and Tomariro. Those are my mountains that I was raised under. Tauponui out there is my water, Tuwhare toa, the people. These mountains, if you were to press me, I would tell you are wahi tapu. They're a sacred space. But are we the only people in the world that see mountains as sacred? This is Pahasapa in the Black Hills of South Dakota. To the Lakota people, it is seen as the sacred center of the world. I'm always interested in that statement, the sacred center of the world, because if you look at a map of North America and the location of Pahasapa in the center, smack dab in the middle of Australia is a place called Uluru, another sacred mountain. To the Pitjantjatjara people, the Aborigines, it is seen as their sacred mountain where their creative ancestors still dwell. Even in Japan, sacred mountain of Fuji. Go across to Greece, Olympus, formed after the feet of the Titans by 12 Olympian gods that still dwell there. In Tibet, Kailash, a sacred mountain to 4 different religions. For example, to the Hindu, it is the dwelling place of Shiva, who dwells in a state of never-ending meditation. Coming into the Pacific, there are many sacred mountains. This is on the island of Tutuila, Maunga Matawhao. The mountain peaks are seen as sacred to the people of Samoa. Maunga Vai, the resting place of Robert Louis Stevenson, Tusitala, the storyteller. Sacred mountains. If you come into the island of Huahine, Tahiti, the mountain that you see there, its name is literally Maua Tapu, meaning sacred mountain. In the Cook Islands, Maunga Roa, one of their many sacred mountains. And I always find it interesting that here in Hawaii, there is Maunga Roa. Just north of Wellington is another place, Maunga Roa. And they are sacred mountains. We name these sacred mountains after sacred mountains that we came from. And Aotearoa, this mountain, Taranaki, one of the most handsome mountains you'll ever see, has actually been given the rights of a human. That's how sacred it is to the people of the west coast of Aotearoa. Taupiri, the resting place of our kings and queen of Waikato. This is Tarawera, a mountain in the middle of the North Island belonging to Ngāti o Wairangi. There's over 200 mountains in Aotearoa, and they're all seen as sacred space. This is Aoraki in Ngāi, the South Island, tallest mountain in Aotearoa. This is Rako Mangamanga, important place for navigation in Polynesia, but also seen as part of Te Whare Tapu o Ngāpuhi, the sacred house of the Ngāpuhi, made up of the sacred mountains of the north. This is Hukurangi, the first place in the world to see the sun on each new day, sacred to Ngāti Paroi. All of these sacred mountains, I'm sure you're probably thinking that you know sacred mountains as well. I'm pretty sure the next 4 I'm going to name you're familiar with, because They come from the Judeo-Christian part of this world. This is Mount Ararat, believed to be the resting place of Noah's Ark, a sacred mountain. This is Mount Marae, a place where Abraham was told to take his son Isaac and sacrifice him, not down to the paddock, up to a mountain. And later that mountain was named Mount Zion. Today it's where you'll find Jerusalem in the Dome of the Rock. Mount Tabor, believed to be the place of transfiguration of Jesus of Nazareth, sacred place to those in Israel and others around the world. Arguably the most famous mountain is this one, Horeb. In the records of Exodus, the name Horeb was changed to the mountain of God. And this is where Moses learned his identity. He learned who he was on a mountain. You see, Moses was what we call in our language, tautangata. He was without identity. He'd been raised an Egyptian. He lived in their homes. He ate their food. He went to their schools. He was actually in their government. And he was called to take the children of Israel, who all he knew about were the workers down the back. But he was a pure descendant of the house of Levi. So at the age of 80, in 1517 BC, he was told to take his people to a mountain. And so 2.5 million people were at the bottom. And in the record of Exodus, the mountain was made sacred. He told the people, don't touch the mountain. You touch the mountain and you die. But he took 70 elders with Aaron and his sons and Joshua. He went halfway up the mountain. He told them to pray for him as he and Joshua went to the Tuhoe, went to the top. And there learned who he was and his connection to his Creator. He was also told there, as we know, Tangohi o hu, he wahi tapu tēnei. His Creator told him, remove the shoes from your feet because the place where you stand is sacred. And so I find that interesting that in many parts of even in Polynesia, when we go to sacred places, we still remove shoes. Coming here into Hawaii, go to island of Kauai and Waialeale, and the many mountains that are here on our islands. Right behind us, Ko'olau, Waianae, go across to Molokai and Kamako, sacred mountains. Haleakala, Celestial School of Learning, place where our ancestor Maui learnt about astronomy, celestial navigation. Going over to the big island, of course, to the mountains there, Mauna Roa, Huolalai, Kilauea, and this mountain, Mauna Kea. Its full name, Mauna Wā Kea, literally translated the mountain of Sky Father. We heard that name recorded in the book of Exodus, the mountain of God. And so I guess some people in the world may be wondering, why are these people still at the base of this mountain today? I was there on Tuesday. I spoke to one of the kiai there, Mai Kai, and he told me they are there to protect the sacred mountain from further desecration. Not only the mountain, but the water that is stored inside this mountain of Mauna Kea. He reminded me, ko te whenua. Ko te whenua ko au. I am the land, and I am. The land is me. Ko au te wai, ko au. And I am the water, and the water is me. Culture is a lens through which we see the world. How you see it becomes your beliefs, which becomes your values, which becomes your actions, ultimately your traditions, which is therefore your culture. And I'm hoping as this little cultural exchange that we've had today, you're able to see through a lens that we can understand each other a little better. Thank you.